So what we're wanting to do is have you put together your thoughts from these 2 days. If you look around the room, there are 7 numbers on the walls. We're going to trust that you can self-regulate yourselves to make groups of 5 around each of those numbers. So just take your chairs and make groups of 5, which if there's more than 5, we won't be unhappy. Well, we guess there was about 35 of us. Well, you're going to have a whole 45 minutes to do this. So I would suggest you get in the groups. Now, before you move, hold one more thing. Then when you're in that group, please designate someone to be your leader who will be in charge of, I'll tell you what you're going to do. You have on page 21 in your book. So everybody turn to page 21. You have 3 questions. And we're going to let you regulate yourselves to get through all 3 questions in a half an hour and have one person take notes so that you have main points for each of those questions, because your leader will be asked to share what your group came up with. Any questions about that process so far? You got it?
And let me clarify, we have 45 minutes total for this.
Yeah,
so
right.
The group conversation may be about probably 15 minutes or so. That if we're going to try to get every one of these groups, or even a lot of them, to actually share what they talked about.
If we have 7 groups, 7 times 5 is 35. So it means you're going to have about 15 minutes to share, 2 minutes a group. Oh, and we have to hear them from Zoom too. So you're right. Okay, how about we give you 20 minutes for discussing? So be, succinct.
And when we go around, we'll just give each group spokesperson just a couple of moments to share what is relevant and not go into a 35-minute story.
No, you can't do that.
All right, ready?
Okay, so please, yes, quick.
All right, so assemble your chairs into the general areas.
Just the general area
Or
of those numbers.
Make your own pod somewhere and call yourself a number.
Yep. We'll start with group number 1. And we're going to give you exactly 5 minutes. Okay? And I'll ring the bell at 5 minutes. James, do you want my...
All right, group number 1, who is your spokesperson?
For number 1, my name's Michelle Gervais, and I'm just starting with the Principal Foundation as the grant administrator for the institutional department. So it's a privilege to be here and to meet you all. So for number 1, the first idea that came was partnership. That was so evident from this event and all the work that everybody's doing, that partnership is the key. And so expecting that Embrace Fully is going to keep aligning with folks and we'll all be woven together. There was some other talk on the side about the role of the church communities, the institutional communities in each state, if we were to each be tasked with mapping out who we know and what we know. And we're going to have to come at this from a lot of different angles and start to map the world of service here. There was a good mention of not losing track, that all these institutions really are successful because they don't lose track of the love. The mission is really the love. It's not just a job. And that was one of the key takeaways that's working. And in California, mentioned that resource management, the community resource management departments are really swamped with volunteers right now. It was, really dormant during COVID and the pandemic. Now there's so many. I don't know if this is the takeaways in the good or the bad, but it just is that there's difficulty in getting organized to get into places right now. But don't give up, because there will come a time when they'll get their legs under them again. And they're so under-resourced in terms of staffing that we're all here to help, and they just don't know how to weave us into their schedule right now. So be patient. For number 2, did you want to add anything to number 1? Number 2, what are some of the challenges? One of the challenges that had, somebody heard of this idea of playing church. And then we realized that's really not a challenge for people or even for us. It said, you know, I like, as a kid, the line "fake it until you make it." Lavelle talked about, you know, following Jesus. Eventually, you'll get there, even if you don't know where you're going. You know, so this is, you know, if they're playing along, it's okay. It's dawning on them, and that just to be patient, don't judge, and stay with them as they're taking those. So what might have looked like a challenge is actually the way it works. Enrolling new volunteers is a challenge that we identified. So many opportunities, and so that is something we talked about different ideas on. Can't read my own writing. Scaling. Oh, scaling, a challenge. How do we scale to other places? Some of this work is, it's, you know, the depth is so important. And then how do we broaden it, and how do you get those same qualities? And so we heard from Dwight that hopefully, like, some of the graduates of their program, you know, as they go out into other communities, that could be the next place to expand and to scale. And another question was how to follow, when people get transferred in institutions, how do you follow them, and how do you provide a support network? That's a challenge. It's also an opportunity, because they're like our apostles, you know, and they go out. If we could just have people to support them where they are, and they could start their own little church groups in a way there. What are more ways we can do to bless our returning community members? Let's see, consistent communication was a big one. And to not judge them if they kind of are, you know, hot with it for a month and then kind of cool on it for 2 months, and then they come back a month later, that we're not judging them. We're just making sure they're okay and have what they need. And that takes time. Oh, that a big challenge is trust. They don't trust people when they're inside the system. And so it takes time to learn to trust again and to be patient with that. If every branch church could look to engage their members in being correspondents, then when they get out, you know, they will, that trust factor will have already been better established. And we seem like we're kind of short on having people to respond to people inside. And then I just thought this was an interesting fact. Dwight said, when you're in an institution, you make 3,600 decisions a day. When you're out, you make 36,000 decisions a day. And so just, you know, being patient, being there while they just adjust. It's a different way of life. What else?
Thank you. All right. That was great. Good job, Michelle. All right, we're going to move on to the first breakout room in Zoom. We're going to flip-flop between the two. So whoever was a spokesperson for the first breakout room, or else a breakout room.
Okay,
I don't think we know who's won.
All right, so one of you go first, and then just keep track if you've gone yet.
okay, we chose to be Group 1A in case there was another Group 1. And we had Elena and Vivian in our group, and we covered a lot of ground. But
So
we'll
introduce yourself. Introduce yourself first.
My name is Steve Weiss, and I was with Vivian and Elena. And so on question one, the I'll just hit some high points there. Tony was a great example of the kinds of things that inspire us. When some of his insights that we may not otherwise realize until we hear from someone with his perspective was very helpful. And then some challenges. I don't even know if I'm hitting all the questions right, but the challenges are often, we seem to have big challenges, but compared to other places in the world, the more we look out and learn from other areas, like from other parts of the country and other jurisdictions, it sometimes we realize that things are not as hard as they could be elsewhere. And so we know that we have the capability of dealing whatever we need to where we are. And another one of the challenges is just in our society at large, with so many families not having both parents at home. And so what can we do about that? Well, prayer is always going to be our number one go-to, because that covers, I can testify, even with the best parents, the best Christian family value parents, there's such a thing as a black sheep in the family. And that the father, mother, God is the real parent that we all need to relate to, regardless of human circumstances that we might have grown up in, for better or for worse. And so what can we do is always be receptive to opportunities that come to us through prayer to continue this work that we're inspired. We're learning about more possibilities through conferences like this and things we can read and other meetings that we have in association with others in this field of institutional and reentry. And so just by, this whole thing is, what's inspiring is how it's growing, right? We're all impressed by that. This is just really growing lickety split, and it keeps growing by us, by our responding to ideas that come to us day by day, little by little. That's probably enough, because there are several other groups to hear from.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. Big round of applause. All right. Group 2 in the room. Is that you all? All right. Who? Hello, young lady. Please introduce yourself right there.
My name is Joy Bassa Emerson. Hello. My name is Joy Bassa Emerson, and I'm part of an angel team in Washington State. Our group includes a returning community member, and to question one, what inspired you most and why, was very touching. All those who are here and helping. And the Embrace Fully team feels exactly the same about them, how much they inspire us. Another point, one of the key things that we're taking away from the conference was something that one of the panel members said: "I'm not a mistake, I made a mistake." And then one of the things that we're taking away from the conference is the importance of getting Christian Science on tablet and connecting the connection between institutional committees. Is that correct? And applying this to church. Ask the church and Embrace Fully teams asking themselves, do we follow the tenets and the golden rule? And another saying that somebody said during the conference: when God casts your sins into the sea, don't go deep fishing. So question 2, the challenges, the concept of leaving the work to other people, limited thinking, distractions, the solution, see it and do it, overcome fear, prioritizing, and a reference to the book I Refuse to Leave a Dying Church by Paul Nixon. And one of the challenges too is doing too much, deciding where to draw the line, because we don't want to take over someone else's life. Last question. love people, being ready to give back to the community, making deeper connections in sharing.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Zoom, your turn next. Somebody just start and that you'll be the next.
We were group 3 in
Awesome.
Zoom.
So please introduce yourself
My name is
and
Deborah Allen, and the others on the team were Ann Hughes, Grace, Marianne Rifford, Ted Wolfarth, and Judith Codray. And we represent 6 different states in the United States. We felt that we were so inspired by different things that the questions brought up that we simply discussed what had inspired us and what thoughts had come to us through the day. And they were these. One was we need to educate our churches about this work, our other members, so that they can love the work and want to be involved in it. Involve returning citizens in ushering or other activities even before they are members or if they are non-members. Involve them in some of the congregational work. We are not accustomed to this work, and we can go to other organizations like the ones we heard from today and learn from them how they're doing some of these things with helping the returning citizens so that we can learn from them. That was very inspiring. We also felt as if we need to be as loving with our own church members as we're being with the returning citizens. The early Christians were known for how they loved each other. And so many of us have things others don't see that respond to the deep love that we're talking about today. Let's be sure we're doing that with our own church members. Open hearts and empathy out in the community will energize our churches. And there was a discussion about presenting Christian Science lovingly and fearlessly when we go into places with interfaith places or other places, or run into resistance in the prisons or the jails, that we very lovingly are willing to take a stand for who we are and explain the loving kindness of Christian Science and what it is, so that people can really learn who we are. And don't draw lines between us and other church Christian denominations. Somebody read from Pulpit and Press, a beautiful statement, and I can't quote it here, but it was about that we're united only with Christ-like ideas, and that do you want to read that for us? That was so, do you still have that open, my friend? I think it was Ted that read that. It was Ted Wolfarth. Ted, do you have that from Pulpit and Press that you could read as we finish our little report? I don't know if he does, but it was about.
Yes, I do have it. Sorry, I couldn't unmute there for a second. Christian Scientists are really united to only that which is Christ-like, but they are not indifferent to the welfare of anyone. To perpetuate a cold distance between our denomination and other sects and close the door on church or individuals, however much this is done to us, this is not Christian Science. And our unity with churches of other denominations must rest on the Spirit of Christ calling us together. That's from Pulpit and Press on page 21.
thank you. That is very good. Very nice. Very nice. All right, we're going to go on to group number 3 in the room. Yeah, big round of applause. Thank you. All right, who is your note taker? All right, please introduce yourself.
My name is Dana Wright Kuzmer, and I'm from the Dallas area, and I was joined by other members. Besides Texas, California was represented. We also joined with a returning citizen as well. As to question number 1, what 2 or 3 key ideas did we take away? Well, to begin with, we needed to make sure we pray daily for our prisons, inmates, and returning citizens. Also, the other inspirations were the fact that we can help by helping our returning community members we are strengthening all of our communities. And by doing so, the resources we found, again, could be also, like another group mentioned, could be members or non-members. In looking for Angel, that question was pertaining to the need for more Angel team members. And the difference we found was that Angel team members do not have the same requirements that chaplains. So you could be even a parole officer, any sort of someone you know that has resources and ready to help, you know. We also discussed a little bit number 2, as far as what are some of the challenges to be faced. And one of those was how to centralize and how to know when a returning member is about ready to enter the community. And we also thought that some kind of a map or something, or utilizing our already existing websites to be able to know when someone is going to be needing help, so that we're not, letting them drop through the cracks. And also, we just have to remember to love our neighbors as ourselves, and knowing how to help returning community members. That's number 3, just briefly, to be aware by our prayer of what needs to be done. And our prayer will always lead us to what we need to do next, or how we can be the most help. And as one of our other members mentioned, we can be aware, we need to be aware of their initial needs when they first reenter. They're going to be needing things like birth certificates, state IDs, etc. So.
Thank you, Dana. All right, how about next one on Zoom?
Yeah, maybe I should speak. I think we were group 2.
Yep.
So as far as what we were impressed with was the energy of the returning community members and how focused they were. It was inspiring to see how focused they were on reaching out, inviting people to church. Mary Baker Eddy encouraged us, universal love. Churches embracing so fully returning members. We were very inspired by that, the consistency of the Angel teams, and how far this whole process has carried people, all of us together in one boat. Challenges and solutions, encouraging church members to see inmates as children of God and to be embraced by the church. More testimonies published in the periodicals to broaden the field knowledge. We've heard so many wonderful examples, and putting them in the periodicals will really broaden that out. Love everyone, including church members. Sometimes we feel frustration, maybe, as a challenge, but that we don't have to feel, if we're feeling that we're impelled by God to do something, we can just do it. We don't have to have the church's permission or something. We can do it as an individual. Of course, being a chaplain does require, appointment by a church, but there's lots of other things we can do just individually. One thing might be showing part of the conference recording at a membership meeting so that they can hear the stories of the returning community members or churches and what they're doing. I think that was about it.
Awesome. Thank you. Big round of applause. Are we to group 4? Hold up. Please introduce yourself.
Okay, Bonnie Bartolos from Kansas City. We were all around the block on things. With the two special ideas, it starts with, can you hear? Okay. We love the remark about I am not a mistake, that we're all enough. And that there was concern about sometimes we're given so much responsibility, and are the other members willing to help, to support? This is a question that, okay. All right. So that's a question though, that I think a lot of people have, but there was concern about that other people need to step up and help. Sometimes it's just one individual who seems to be doing a lot of the work and about things, and we all need to be sharing in that. And we need to unself our love and to give it and to share it with the church. There's a lot going on at the grassroots level through this whole program. And I think it is significant as a group that it is the future of Christian Science in so many ways that we are a part of. So that was in the first ideas, the challenges. Well, I've already mentioned about the challenges in terms of the support at church. We have to meet where we are right at. Whatever we're at, this is where we're meeting the challenges that are ahead of us. And it all we are not asking God to fix the problem. We are knowing that there is no problem, and the omnipotence of what is there is our supply and everything that we need. Let me see here. I can't read my notes. We need to be more open with everybody about Christian Science, whether it's the members of the church or whether it's outside of the church or whether it's in other religious groups, to help to understand and explain what Christian Science is. And finally, the challenge, the third church was a challenge to all of us. I mean, we felt that this is significant in terms of what we might do for the community. And so the first responders, having some type of event for first responders with the church, I think is extremely important. I know personally, I have taken cookies to the fire department when I had to have them come to help get my husband off the floor, and they were thrilled to get the attention. But I think it's really important that we support them and give them attention. All right, bring the word of God with love in all, and it moves mountains. And that's where we are at. That's what we are doing, is to really make a significant difference in our family, at church, the community, and in the world.
All right, next in Zoom, back to Zoom land.
All right. I'm Pam Wiley Powell, and we had a wonderful group. What everybody was impressed with were the people's stories, and Troy, Sawyer's, Lavelle, so many others. And what was said several times was this is the most remarkable conference some of us had ever seen. One person said, you know, Jesus's parable of leaving the 99 sheep to find the lost one. A point in that is that progress can be one person at a time. And it may not seem like a lot of change, except, of course, the redemption is huge for that one lost sheep. One person expressed appreciation for James Early basically fessing up to being a Christian Scientist, and that was important too, and that has also been stated by others. And it was great to see just the outcomes of others and the way that Christian Science was put into practice. And one person remarked about how that idea of, are you a person who considers yourself half empty or half full? No, my cup is running over. That was another thing that was impressive. And what people were inspired to just find out more about what our local church community is and can do with this. The challenges. One person was from the Big Island of Hawaii, and there are no institutional committees there. They are following the lead of Embraced Fully to have how Embraced Fully is working. And basically they're starting from scratch there. A person in Northern California noted that laborers are few for the harvest. Moving on, how to bless our community. Just plain getting involved is part of it. Making a commitment to change. And one person is part of a group of volunteers who gather periodicals together and process them and get them into institutions. We are living now in the time of love's divine adventure to be all in all, and just being open to what is ahead and listening, and then being obedient to that still small voice for what we should do. We've seen the seeds being planted and watered yesterday and today, and we're looking forward to a grand harvest.
Awesome. Thank you. Really, really great. All right, we're up to group 5. All right, if you can stand and introduce yourself.
My name's Julie Murrigan, and my team was John, Ryan, Lisa, Candace, and Pedro. And I'm from Dallas, and I haven't actually started. I'm wanting to be a corresponding chaplain, and I came here at Woody's invitation to learn as much as I could. And one of the things I've learned, because I'm a middle school teacher, is that there's a lot of similarities between middle school students and incarcerated people in terms of that attitude, especially that sense of I can't show my vulnerability. And that for me made me less intimidated with the idea of joining this organization. So for our takeaways, the incredible power of love and the power of being judgment-free, as illustrated through that beautiful dirty window getting cleaned with the solution of love, and also as illustrated by the people who talked about how they were so blessed and transformed when people treated them as with love and without judgment. One of our group members said what she's realized here as a takeaway is that there are solutions and that there are many different kinds of solutions. And another said inspiration and courage and meeting people where they are. The knowing that it is God's will, it's to do God's will and do of his good pleasure. It's God willing and doing. When we got to the section on challenges, they really had one common bond, which was the idea of limitation, whether it was the logistics in networking that are not set up, budget, lack of volunteers, lack of experience, lack of information. And so the work here is to not limit good and not think in terms of those. And one person kind of had a light bulb going off and saying, you know, I just need to get more spiritual inspiration and let God lead instead of thinking that I have to do everything. And I think we all sometimes can get so involved in that and thinking that we have to, you know, have our fingerprints on everything. But really, it is God's work. And just with the window illustration, we have to see it. And thinking about the third question, what more can we do to bless our returning community members, church, and society? Well, that's one question, not 3 questions. And I love that it's the word bless rather than help. And prayer, certainly all the time, prayer is the number one thing that leads to showers of blessing. But also, if we just simply practice Christian Science, improve our own practice of Christian Science, then it will be like a beacon. One member said, you know, the community responds to the church when the church is really doing what it needs to do.
Awesome. All right, Zoomers, what did you got?
Well, we were group 5. I'm Terry from Oregon, the state committee secretary, and we had a group of 5, and we kind of discussed all 3 questions together. So I'll try and make this a little more organized than our conversation. We were all very inspired by everyone's stories and how everyone is giving back to the community. You know, they got out, they got help, and they're giving that help back to those that are coming up behind them. Let's see. We liked the idea of highlighting more that Christian Science is Bible-based, whether that's through the example that was given of sharing the tenets or calling the in-person sessions a Christian Science Bible study. see. We're all taking away ideas for new activities like the Thanksgiving service. We all really like that idea. Some of the challenges that were shared are technical issues with the Securus system. And I know in Oregon, ours is called Core Links, and there's another name, and we all have similar systems that are can be very helpful in communicating with those that are still inside the prisons, but they could be more user friendly. And Sandra from the Bahamas has the challenge that she's there alone. She doesn't have any support system. She doesn't have a church backing her up, and is trying to learn how she can get involved. And she took away the idea of finding out maybe about interfaith activities there. And we all also like that idea of getting more involved with the interfaith community to find out what others are doing and learn from them, or find out other ways that we can get involved to help out. And see, I think there was one more thing. One other thing that we agreed was a good idea is to make provision within the state committees for returning community members to participate more. Megan from Michigan shared that their state committee does not allow for non-church member, non-class taught scientists to participate, and Oregon also has those rules. So that's something to work on to allow those that have returned to the community to participate more. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. And I'll say one common theme I've heard now from a number of people is mastering Securus, or just understanding how to use it. We're probably going to do a little workshop and a tutorial at some point in time in the future on that. Let's go to group number 6. Please introduce yourself.
I'm James Early from Bethel, Connecticut. And on question 1, we really mostly focused on what we were taking away from the conference, as opposed to, we didn't really get to the second part of that question. Well, a little bit we did, but one of the things is that we wanted to try to get our churches more involved instead of just thinking, oh, I have to do it. A lot of times churches see 1 or 2 people working and they think, oh, I don't have to do anything. So we want to get our whole churches involved. Personally, for myself, I'm going to write a letter to all the churches in Connecticut when I get back. I'm the only one in Connecticut doing this, and I'm going to tell them about this meeting and then suggest several things that they can do to be involved, like writing letters and that sort of thing. So that's something I made a commitment to do. Oh, and also I'm going to talk to the chaplain about getting Science and Health and the lectures on the tablets, because we do have tablets in my facility. We have a returning community member in our group, and he has been inspired. He actually said, well, I wasn't sure about what this conference was going to be like, but he's inspired to really get involved, to give back in the prison ministry. So that's really, really encouraging. Some of the challenges we've talked about was getting to know more about how this case management process works. And I think that's something as a whole, we talked about earlier as a group. Learning how to ask for help when you need it, listening for those who are asking for help. We're not always totally in tune with that, but, and also, following through on whatever comes to you to do, following through, not just immediately, but for the long term. Like if I'm going to write to these letters in Connecticut, the churches in Connecticut, I got to follow through. It's not just a one-time thing. Whatever it is, we need to follow through on. And remembering to thank God for whatever the challenge is, to thank God, as someone said, it's already taken care of. In His eyes, the work is done. We have to bear witness to that. What can we do to bless in all these ways? Daryl said, he was really encouraged by church members to read the lesson every day. And no, you don't want to do it just because you're told to, but he said that's really, really been strengthening to him. So I think that's something we can encourage those if we have that opportunity. And we need to remember to listen, to know what the needs are of the churches, the returning community members, society at large. We can't just decide what we think the needs are. The challenge is to actually listen to what they're actually saying. Listen what's on the heart. Listen to the question behind the question, the need behind the surface. Okay. And just learning how to pray to support the community, being grateful, taking that idea, being grateful for what's already happening, being grateful for the receptivity of chaplains in prisons for Christian Science to be there. Don't just accept that, oh, they're not receptive. Be grateful that they are receptive. Fill in the blank with all those kinds of things.
Hello, Zoom. Next.
Hi, this is Rob Vanderlyke, and I think we're with Group 6. We got a little bit of a slow start, but we did get talking and eventually did figure out the questions we were supposed to be answering. We didn't quite choose a scribe, though, so I'm going to ask some of the other members all to share an idea or two along with me. Lynette, Melanie, and Daniel had some great ideas. The one I wanted to address was, as far as challenges go, we have a kind of a more elementary scope of a ministry here in Florida, and we're more in the process of working with inmates that have quite a while to go yet before there's going to be an angel team involved. And it just seems like where we were, some groups were involved in on-site, in person. We mostly, except for one situation, are going to go forward or be able to go forward with a correspondence ministry. And I know that Embrace Fully has put on some webinars and things like that. And I think that is really going to be valuable to try to maybe for us to promote more when those programs come up. But the kind of relationship that you have to have with them, I mean, if we're talking about a lot of resources going towards someone who is, not only getting ready to get out, but making a decision to commit to a religion that they're going to be devoted to, and how we're going to mentor that. And that takes really years. The two that we've had that we helped through, we ministered with them 5 or 6 years. So for us, we're not probably going to be asking a lot of information about, the angel team part of it, but the prior to the date is going to be where a lot of our work is, and what we do to develop the relationship that we need to have to be sure that the folks are committed and have demonstrated that. And through a correspondence program, it was, I think it's hard enough to do it when you're in person, but actually doing it through correspondence, that's a new thing. So anyway, there's that. And then Lynette or Daniel or Melanie, if you'd like to add an idea with that, that would be great.
And you have about 1 minute to do it.
Oh, okay. Well, we only need one of those three then.
Well, I'll talk. You want to go? Go ahead. No, you go.
I'll just say that I really loved hearing about the PrEP program. I've got some inmates that I meet with, and one of them is, I think, somebody who, when his time comes, will recommend Embrace Fully to him. He is committed, and there's another one that I think he has to decide. He may have decided that he's more comfortable staying in prison. But I think I will recommend to him the PrEP courses, where he'll be able to really rethink that. I guess I feel that there's a somewhat of a challenge in terms of level of participation from our movement. But that's a pretty, that doesn't affect just this activity, all of the activities of church. But that's all I have to.
Let's give him some applause. And I will say this to what you just said, Daniel. We have 120 people that have been participating in this conference this weekend. So even though in an individual church, it might feel like I'm the only one, this spreads because we share the story of what we've seen, what we've heard. Let's go on to 7. Stand up and introduce yourself.
I'm Eleanor Bigby. I'm from First Church in Tyler, which is just a few steps east of here. My team is all from the DFW area, Texans all. We don't really have anything new to add to what everybody has said. The key ideas, the inspiration that we're taking away, first of all, for me, is the humility and the love and the generosity of the returning members being willing to share their stories with us means an awful lot. The compassion and the commitment to this work is very important. It was brought up that there is a great need, as the Bible says, and someone I think online mentioned that the harvest is great, but the laborers are few. The challenges, obviously, that's one of the challenges. We have a challenge to come forward and identify ourselves as Christian Scientists and share the blessings of Christian Science with those we meet. The tendency to want to get all of our church members on board with this activity to go with us and support it and join us, difficult to do. But it was suggested that we just offer just little portions to start, just to give inspiration in small portions, such as find someone who needs someone to write letters to, and then go to members who appreciate our work and offer them the opportunity to be a letter writer. Start small and not overwhelm them with a huge job. I would like to add something that I found inspiring about facing the challenges of doing this work. In the book of Joshua in the Bible, when he's leading the children of Israel into the promised land, and he's met with these formidable walls around Jericho. In the Interpreter's Bible, there's a comment in the commentary part that says, "There are no impregnable walls before the onward march of divine purpose." And I find that so useful in this work. When we're met with challenges, we know that there are no impregnable walls. And this is certainly a divine purpose that we're engaged in. So let that be your inspiration.
Do we have any more folks on Zoom whose room has not been shared yet? And if not, awesome.